All right, my friends, let's talk about the interesting phenomenon of debut albums, because I feel like a band's first album is almost always either the best thing they ever did or the worst thing they ever did. It's always a one or the other. It's pretty rare that the debut album is like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not their best, but it's pretty good. Or it's not awful, but it's okay. It's almost always like terrible or great. Very interesting. We're going to go down a list, look at some of the debut albums from your favorite bands, and we'll ask ourselves where they belong. Were they amazing and great? Were they terrible? Or were they one of the rare examples of something that are a little bit in between? And also, I wanted to mention something new that I'm doing, which is a YouTube coaching program. If you're an individual creator or you're a company, really anybody that wants to grow on YouTube, this is for you. Basically, this is a way to download everything that I have learned about YouTube over the past 7 years from my brain into yours. There's a pretty common set of challenges that pretty much everybody runs into on YouTube. I've run into pretty much all of them. And with this coaching program, I can help you get past those a lot faster than I did figuring it out on my own. For example, in my opinion, the single most important thing for any channel is figuring out the right niche for your content. Like, what should you focus on and how do you talk about it? For example, for me on this channel, once I found that, I went from getting, a couple hundred views a video to tens of thousands of views per video, literally almost overnight. You can see it right here. And also the right approach to things like titles and thumbnails and how to structure your videos to keep people's attention, all that stuff that took me years to figure out on my own through trial and error. I just want to help you speed run all of that. I am super excited about this, and I'm going to be putting a lot of time and energy into it over the course of the year. And if you want to find out more about it, you can just hit the link in the description of this video. The first one we will look at here is your boys in Blink-182, their first album, Cheshire Cat, from, what is this, 1994? Yeah, 1994. Now, there's Buddha, which was a demo, but this is like their first actual real album. Drumming's a little rough. Sorry, Scott apologists. It's a little rough. I do like this. This is Blink's Kerplunk album, maybe. This is actually an interesting one that's kind of an exception to what I was talking about, where this is neither their best nor their worst. Yeah, the production is awful. The songs are like pretty good. The drumming is terrible. I think if they re-recorded this with Travis, I think this would be like an amazing song with like good production and everything like that. But, it does kind of get held back by Scott being sort of not the best drummer and the production being bad. But I think it's pretty good. So my thought on this, one of the rare examples of where I would say it's neither the best thing they've done nor the worst thing they've done. Obviously, the best stuff that they've done, sort of depending on who you ask, would either be Enema of the State or Self-Titled. The worst, I think everyone would agree, is the Matt Skiba stuff. So I would say I'm going to put Cheshire Cat, I'm going to put in the B tier. I think it's a solid album. It's not the one I would choose to listen to, but I wouldn't be upset if it came on either. I like it. So that's where I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it on the B tier. Next, we have, on the more metal side of things, how about Kill 'Em All by Metallica from, when did this come out? 1983. Yeah. This album sucks. I think it kind of sucks too. I don't really like it. Come on, when's the song going to start? This reminds me of when I was in like 6th grade. The kids that like this would have those leather jackets with the fringe coming off the sleeves. Not bad. All right, yeah. I want that as a plaque on the wall. All right, yeah, quote James Hetfield. I should preface this by saying that I am a known Metallica not enjoyer, but I agree with this from the chat here. If you're under 50 and enjoy this, seek help. I agree with that. Like, I don't think this is terrible by any means, but I don't think it's amazing. If this album was by a band other than Metallica, would you love it? If this was just from some random band from, Southern California that never ended up, becoming a giant, huge band, would they actually like this? I don't think they would. I think you'd say it's kind of mid. Again, take my opinion with a grain of salt. I am a known Metallica not enjoyer, but I would put this on the C tier. I don't think it's fantastic. It's not terrible, but I don't think it's fantastic. That's what I think. Next up, we have, how about Hybrid Theory by Linkin Park? As far as I'm aware, I think this was like the fastest selling debut album of like the 2000s. I agree with this. I think it's S tier. My personal favorite thing they ever did was One More Light, but I think it's pretty fair to say that this is, you know, mostly considered to be their best album. I think it's pretty fair to say that. One of the most important albums in nu metal. You know, people still love this band for good reason. They have 3 S tier albums. I agree with that. I'd make the argument that Meteora was better, but it's close. I think that's valid too. But I think, you know, any way you want to look at it, you got to put this on the S tier. Even if you like Meteora better, I think it's fair to say that as a debut album, this is S tier. And this is true too. They brought in the normies with this album. That's true, because this was like the most kind of accessible version of nu metal. Korn, Slipknot, you know, all that stuff was a little bit too scary for normies. Linkin Park was, you know, they seemed like nice. They didn't seem like crazy tweakers or whatever, you know, or evil clowns like the other bands. So I would say it's an S tier album. Respect to them. And yeah, a lack of meth energy. That's true, but I think it's a great album. Many people would say that is their best album. I don't know if I would agree with that, but many people would say that, and I think it's valid. How about Nirvana? Many people forget that they have an album before Nevermind. They had an album that came out in 1990, I believe, or maybe it was 89, called Bleach, which is not bad. I like the cover a lot. I feel like it's cool now to say that Bleach is better than Nevermind, which I think is a crazy opinion. I think that there's something cool about like the rawness of Bleach, but I don't think anybody sort of, you know, sane could say that it's objectively better than Nevermind. It's not, but I do think it's good. I would probably put it on the B tier with Cheshire Cat. Like, I wouldn't necessarily choose to listen to it, but I get it. I like it. I appreciate it. I think it's a contrarian hipster opinion to say that it's better than Nevermind, but I do think it's good. How about something that is not good? I'm sorry. I apologize to my friends in Avenged Sevenfold, but not good. This is another thing. I feel like there's so many contrarian hipsters now that want to say that they like the thing from the band that's not actually good. For example, Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, the very first Avenged Sevenfold album, I'm sorry, is not good. It's not good. It's really not good. It's bad. Their only shit album, yes. It's kind of shit. This is before Brian was in the band. He only played on one song on this album. They were all teenagers? Yeah, probably so. They're probably like 18, 19, something like that. They sound like a local band. Yes. Yes, they do. It's bad. Also, another thing is the Rev recorded all the drums for this album in one take, and you can hear him getting tired towards the end of the album. So like his drumming gets sloppier and sloppier as the album goes on because he recorded the entire album in one take, which is pretty insane. Probably not the best idea. It's cool that he tried it, but it really starts to suffer towards the end of the album. It's not good. I'm sorry. This is an example, you know, like I said before, the first album tends to be either the worst thing or the best thing that the band did. This is definitely an example of the latter, which is it's not good. This is by far the worst thing. The only bad thing they've ever done. Everything else they've done is awesome, in my opinion. It's not good. It's not good. I'm sorry. It's bad, but there were some signs they had potential. Yes, there were signs of potential, but it's still bad. I love them, but it's not good. How about Slayer? Show No Mercy. Now keep in mind, this came out the same year. This came out like only a couple months after Metallica. Look at that fucking cover art too. What a fucking cool cover. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. This is like pretty extreme shit for 1983. Right? I mean, Metallica just sounded like sort of, I don't know, to me, Metallica sounded like bad, like kind of corny speed metal to me. I think Show No Mercy is a much better debut. Still the worst thing that Slayer ever did, but I think it is much stronger than Kill 'Em All, in my opinion. I still wouldn't choose to listen to it necessarily, but I think there's something cool about it. So I would put this, I would put this on the B tier. It's better than Kill 'Em All. I actually don't quite think it belongs on the same tier as Cheshire Cat and Bleach, but yeah, I think that's fair. Divine Intervention was their worst album. You're high. You're high. Here's one I wanted to mention. A Fever You Can't Sweat Out by Panic at the Disco. This album is fucking incredible. It's a goddamn masterpiece. And they were like children when they did this. I think that they were like, what, 16 or something? 16 or 17 when they wrote this? Like, how fucking crazy is that? It's ridiculous. This isn't a case where a producer wrote all this for them, because you can listen to the demos for this before they were, signed or anything like that. They sound crazy. They sound amazing. So I would say this is a good example of the debut album being the best thing the band ever did. I think some of their other stuff is pretty good, but it really was never quite the same. They could never equal that. I think it's an S tier debut. That's what I think. 10 out of 10, a classic, a one album wonder. They kind of were a one album wonder, but hey, that's okay. Appetite for Destruction. That's another good one. Yes. Appetite for Destruction. I have talked about this before. Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Absolute goddamn masterpiece. One of the best albums ever recorded in any genre. Every single note on this album is perfect. There is not a bad moment on this entire album. It still sounds great. The production is awesome. You listen to this on headphones. The guitar arrangements are crazy. Like, they have just the weirdest kind of like phrasing on the rhythm guitars and stuff. Everything about this album was just absolutely perfect. It's one of the best things ever recorded in any genre. Unfortunately, it's really the only thing they ever did that's this good. The Lies EP is pretty good too, but I feel like even by the time they did Use Your Illusion, I feel like even then they had sort of lost a step and just were no longer the same. I mean, how could they be? This was when they were just like at the absolute peak of being just unhinged, debaucherous, fucking out of control maniacs, on the Sunset Strip, being just totally out of control. And you could hear it on the album. They sounded totally unhinged. Yeah, it still holds up and doesn't sound dated. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect and flawless and amazing and great. Yeah, one of the best pieces of music ever recorded in any genre, in my opinion. Completely S tier. Okay, you guys are not going to like this one, but it's a fact. How about this? $3 Bill, y'all, by Limp Bizkit. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's not good, people. It's not good. You're going to tell me this is good? This sounds like a local band. This is fucking terrible. This is terrible. This sounds like a bad local band. Yeah, this is what nu metal fans are going to bat for? This is terrible. It barely even sounds like they're playing the same song. I'm sorry, no amount of millennial nostalgia will convince me that this is good. It's not good. There's nothing good about this. Like, even the fucking artwork, the cover art. Look at this cover art. The cover art looks like somebody fucking drew it with a ballpoint pen on like the cover of their math book. It's terrible. Yeah, I would say this is like, I might even rather listen to Sounding the Seventh Trumpet than this. It's absolute trash. But we need something for the A tier. I would say for the A tier, how about your boys in the Strokes? How about your boys in the Strokes? Yeah, I hated all that garage rock revival stuff. Absolutely hated it. Like Jet and the Hives and all that kind of crap. I thought was just absolutely awful. But I think the Strokes were really excellent. Like, I wouldn't necessarily choose to listen to this, but they did it right. They really did it right. There's something about their version of it that didn't sound as kind of polished. All that other stuff instantly went into like car commercials and shit. Like, I feel like 5 minutes after the Hives came out, they were in that fucking iPod commercial or whatever. And there's something about the Strokes that, just felt a little bit more kind of grimy and filthy and, felt a little bit more self-loathing, I guess, or something. I don't know. So I think it's damn good. It's definitely a bit on the dated side. It is of its time, right? Meaning from 2001. But I think it's damn good. Is it as good as, Panic or Guns N' Roses or Linkin Park? No, I think it's pretty damn good. So I think it goes on the A tier. And the last one we have here, an interesting one. Meshuggah's debut album. Contradictions Collapse from, what is this, 1990, I think? When is this from? 91. 91. Kind of interesting because you can hear that they're a little bit genty, but they still kind of sound like Metallica at the same time. It's like genty Metallica. It's interesting. They're not quite there yet, but it's pretty cool. But not quite there. Right? This sounds very Metallica, doesn't it? This could have been on Master of Puppets. The vocals are definitely rough, yeah. Yeah, so it's not quite there, but there's definitely, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting. This is an example to me of a band where you can see they were going for something and they didn't quite get there. I wouldn't necessarily choose to listen to it, but you can tell that they were on to something interesting. So for that reason, I think I'll put it on the C tier. But then their next album was an absolute god tier fucking masterpiece. And that's where like all the stuff they were trying to do on this album kind of came together. So there it is, the debut album tier list. Join us next time for another edition. Now, you know, I want that as a plaque on the wall. All right, yeah, quote James Hetfield.